Hello everyone. Thank you for coming back to listen to today's story of CEO James and Diep. An unexpected meeting. Two men who once faced off in silence now sit across from one another. But this time, there is no circling, no insinuations. I will make you lose everything, including her. That cold sentence rings out like the gunshot that opens an uncompromising battle. What will James do to protect his company and the woman he loves? Today's episode is a turning point, a warning bell for everything that's coming. Stay with me until the end of the video, and don't forget to leave a comment, hit like, subscribe, and share, so I'll have more fuel to tell even better stories. The small courtyard of Trang's family welcomed the slanted rays of early sunlight, filtering through the rusted iron gate and scattering faded streaks across the tiled floor. Trang sat at the large wooden table, her hands swiftly arranging papers, while her father, Mr. Tuan, remained as composed as ever, flipping through his worn notebook and casually asking a few questions about James's company. The scene seemed ordinary, even touched with the warmth of family. Yet within Mr. Tuan's words lingered something Trang couldn't quite explain, like a thin veil of mist clouding what should have been harmless questions. She frowned slightly, but still answered politely, never daring to doubt her own father. It was only when she slung her handbag over her shoulder and stepped toward the door that a familiar figure slipped quietly inside. The man dressed in black leaned close to Mr. Tuan, whispering words meant to be hidden. But the hushed tone could not escape Trang's ears. She froze behind the half-closed door, straining to catch every syllable. Mr. Tuan's gaze flickered with a sudden chill as he nodded slowly. The man left as quickly as he had come, leaving behind a heavy silence. Trang stood motionless for several seconds, her heart pounding. Fragments of unease flashed through her mind. John's tense phone calls, her father's evasive replies whenever business was mentioned. A foreboding chill crept into her chest. She didn't yet know the truth, but one thing was certain. Something was unfolding, something tied to James, and far from innocent. Amid the cool embrace of the mountains and forests, a crisp morning drifted by in unhurried silence. The tree canopies swayed gently in the breeze, while sunlight spilled golden streaks across the grass still damp with dew. In a quiet corner of the yard, Diep crouched beside a freshly cut banana stalk, her hands swiftly slicing greens to feed the chickens and ducks. She had grown used to this way of life, simple, rustic, and profoundly peaceful. Leaving the yard behind, Diep followed a narrow path lined with wild grass, a sickle in hand as she went to cut fodder for the buffalo. She disappeared into the trees, surrounded by the earthy scent of soil, fresh leaves, and the warmth of the early sun. Now and then she paused, lifting her gaze toward the mountains, as if searching for a familiar sky she longed to see. Resting her back against a large tree, the sickle still held firmly in her hand, she watched the herd of buffalo grazing lazily before her. The soft jingling of their bells rose and fell, like a countryside melody she had always known. Closing her eyes for a moment, she let the wind brush against her cheeks, her thoughts adrift, nameless and tender. James. What was he doing now? Was his work going well? Who was caring for the farm in his absence? Such is love. It lingers quietly in every moment of the day, no matter the distance. like breath itself, like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat, impossible to sever. The first light of day streamed softly through the glass window, scattering golden streaks across the wooden table like morning dew left behind. In the quiet living room, James sat deep in thought, flipping through pages of reports, his eyes sharp with focus. Beside him, his mother listened in silence, absorbing each word. Their exchange was brief, precise, just as it always was. She knew her son was trying to set everything in order, to clear his mind before setting work aside, so that he could give his full self to Diep. It had been far too long since they had simply sat together, not as a businessman and his confidant, but simply as two hearts at ease. Leaving the house, James strode toward his car. He wasn't in a rush, yet every movement carried a quiet certainty, as though each step was guided by his heart. As the car slid past rows of trees whispering in the morning breeze, he reached for his phone and dialed a number his fingers had memorized through countless mornings of longing. One ring, then two. Nothing urgent, yet with every beat of waiting, his heart seemed to tremble. And then, her voice, warm and gentle, broke through the line like sunlight spilling through a veil of mist. A faint smile curved across James's lips, not dazzling, but enough to light up the entire cabin around him. On the other end, Diep froze for just a heartbeat. Then her eyes glistened, her face blossoming with a joy she could not hide. In the midst of long, quiet days of toil in the countryside, just a few simple words from him, "I'll be there," were enough to warm her soul. For Diep, James's presence was never something taken for granted. It was like a cool breeze in the sweltering summer, or a ray of light piercing through the heavy weight of longing. And today, that light was drawing near. The little cafe nestled quietly on the hillside. Warm yellow light spilled out from its windows, coating the air in a gentle calm. Downstairs, Diep sat silently, her eyes fixed on the staircase. She didn't know what awaited James above, only that her heart beat uneasily, as if a storm was about to break. Upstairs, the atmosphere was entirely different. Harsh orange walls reflected off the dark clothing of John, the man already waiting with a soda can resting on the table. James entered, his gaze calm but sharp as a blade. Two men, two opposing worlds, now facing each other. No shouting, no noise, yet the space itself seemed to tighten. James didn't greet him. He simply pulled out a chair and sat. His face was steady, his eyes never leaving his opponent. John leaned back, tapping his fingers idly against the can, his eyes mocking. He hadn't come to talk. He had come to strike. "I thought you wouldn't show," he said evenly. "But it turns out, you still know fear." James said nothing. He had understood long ago. The man before him was not merely a business rival. He was someone willing to burn the world to the ground for revenge. John's voice dropped lower, each word a knife. "I want you ruined. Your work, your reputation, and her." A chill shot down James's spine. Beneath the table, his hand clenched, but outwardly, he remained composed. In his mind, the image of Diep waiting below anchored him, keeping him from slipping into rage. Finally, he spoke, slow, clear, deliberate. I don't play dirty. But if you cross the line, I won't forgive you." John was silent, his eyes narrowing, as though measuring just how far he could push recklessness. The air between them stretched taut. No declaration of war, no need for it. But James knew, from that moment, the battle had already begun. He rose and walked away, his stride firm without looking back. Downstairs, Diep's eyes immediately found him. She leapt to her feet, worry etched across her face. James gave her a quiet smile, took her hand, and held it tightly. "Let's go eat. Today, I want it to be just for you." Diep didn't answer. She only nodded and walked beside him. Outside, the clouds had yet to break, but in that moment, between the two of them, there was still a fragile peace they clung to, before the true storm arrived. Under the soft golden glow of a small hot pot restaurant, James and Diep sat side by side, steam rising in delicate curls from the simmering pot. The simple, cozy space seemed to wrap them in a quiet warmth, shielding them from the bustle of the outside world. James leaned toward her as she spoke, listening intently, his occasional smile carrying a tenderness that needed no words. On the table, every dish was chosen with care. Nothing too spicy, nothing too heavy, just the way Diep liked it. As the broth bubbled gently, James never let her reach for the food herself. Each piece of meat, every sprig of greens, he picked and cooked to perfection before placing it in her bowl, meticulous and gentle. "Is it good? Eat more, okay?" he said softly. There were moments when Diep looked at him, her eyes shimmering with unspoken emotion. In that gaze was gratitude and a trace of shyness, born from someone unaccustomed to being cared for so tenderly. For James, it was different. To him, caring for Diep was not a duty but a quiet joy. He liked being the one who prepared everything, who made sure no detail was overlooked. Most of all, he liked the look in her eyes, the calm assurance that came only when she was beside him. In every small gesture of his, there was a love too deep to be put into words. Yet behind that calm smile, a storm churned. James was carrying the weight of mounting pressure, shadowed by schemes and betrayals, all orchestrated by John, the man determined to destroy everything he had built. Diep had no idea about the schemes closing in around him. All she saw was a James who was always gentle, meticulous, and who always put her first. And for her, that alone was enough to calm her heart after so many storms.